Hello everyone and welcome to my guide on how to play a healer class in Warhammer Line Return of Reckoning. So, as my previous DPS video, this will not be a class guide at all. This will be a guide on how to play the general archetype of healer. So, starting off, there are some things that are true for our classes. So I'm going to be going over those first. So the one thing is knowledge is power. So the more you know, the better you can do. And with that comes a good UI setup where you can see what's happening around you. You can see your immunities, and you can see like duration of your HOTS, and you can see where your healed target is. There is a lot more that goes into it, but that's a general idea. So Buffhead is a very good start. For example, if I throw a heal over time on myself, I can see the duration here, and I can see that I got a proc of regenerative shielding. So knowing those things is very important. Here I will be healing buddy of mine. Get some stuff rolling. You can see on here, I see some things. On my enemy, I've set up so I can just see another thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing, but seeing where he is on the map can also be very, very helpful. So having a good UI setup when you're healing makes a huge difference. So I will be linking the UI setup I use down below. So, and also that is based on VinyUI, so I will be linking that as well. The next thing that I will be talking about is positioning. So knowing when and where to position is incredibly useful, because that can save you a lot of worry. So you will, with correct positioning, you will take less damage, you will be more effective when it comes to actually healing, and you will generally find your gameplay a lot easier, because you don't have to spend most of the time getting interrupted or getting, CC'd. You may actually have some time to run around. And being mobile is incredibly useful as a healer. So that is one of the main reasons why spamming, in the case of a Rune Priest, Blessing of Valaya, is not the best way to heal, because you are static during that time. And if you're positioned wrong, you will be interrupted. So you can maybe come to like 2/3 of the cast, get interrupted, and then you have to start over, meaning there's a window of maybe 5 to 10 seconds, depending on how deep in shit you are, where no one will be getting any heals. So minding your positioning and thinking about where you should be, because when you're healing, your rune of regeneration, for example, has 150 feet range. That is an incredibly long range. Also, you can stand way back, you can stand behind things where you aren't really seen, and you can heal. And also being able to cast on the move is incredibly useful. There's a good deal of abilities where you can cast on the move. So use your range to your advantage and make sure that you're casting on the move as much as possible. There are some things that you cannot cast, and you can stop and throw out a Rune of Serenity, for example. Or for Archmages, you can throw out your group heal, there are some. So for Archmages, you have Energy of Vol, which on 5-character, I don't know what they're called, but it's castable on the move. Same Warrior Priest need to be very far in front to be able to get their Righteous Fury back, which is their class mechanic, and also to use Martyr's Blessing, which is a heal with a shorter range, but it's very, very, very effective. So knowing your positioning is incredibly useful. And also, I mentioned before, just using your group heal is a very good way to get interrupted and not heal, and that comes into using your entire kit. As a healer, you have a lot of abilities that can be used. Some are DPS, some are heal, but some of the DPS ones can be useful to use still. For example, Rune Priest has Rune of Mining, which is a stagger. So that will CC the target for 6 seconds as long as no one is attacking it. So if you are healing and you get attacked by a witch elf, for example, you can try to stagger that witch elf and then run away. Meaning you have 6 seconds to get out. You also have detaunt. In this case, Rune of Preservation. But every class has a detaunt. Warrior Priest and Archmage has AoE detaunt. And Rune Priest has a single target detaunt, but it also has the Grimnir's Shield, which makes you take less damage. So using your defensive kit is also very, very important. Meaning you can... So if you see people are coming towards you, for example, you see a Choppa coming towards you, or you see whatever class coming towards you, you can detaunt that way ahead, because this has 100 feet range. And it lasts for 15 seconds, so you can detaunt and run away. Meaning, when they actually reach you, you can take 50% less damage. Same thing with if there's a range caster, you can detaunt at 100 feet range. So detaunting the ranged DPS can be very, very, very important. So make sure that you really use your kit to try to survive. Like Grimnir Shield, for example. And there are some tactics that are very helpful for the Rune Priest, for example. You have the Stoutness of Stone, which is very good because it halves the duration of CC done to you. So a 3-second knockdown would be a 1.5-second knockdown, which is very, very good. So remember to use your entire kit. That comes into using potions and stuff as well, because the healing value from a potion is not mitigated. So if you have a heal debuff on you, you can still use a potion and get the full value. And you can also use an absorb potion to great effect over there. Because one thing that isn't widely known is that when you have an absorb shield on, the attack that would hit through the absorb shield, say for example a Word of Pain from a sorceress, or a boiling blood from a bright wizard, if you have an absorb shield up, when the damage portion of that hits, whatever damage hits the shield will not be able to critically hit. However, the overflowing damage can critically hit. So that's how you can get, instead of taking 3000 crit, you can end up taking a 700 crit. So using your absorb shields to mitigate a lot of that is very, very useful. So that's why for Rune Priest you should be running Ancestor's Echo, for example, because it creates shields. There are a lot of effects that create shields. So using your entire kit, meaning shields, detaunts, using your staggers, using your AoE knockbacks as needed. Be careful with those. Don't give mount mitigations for fun. Don't use them all the time. And then you come into the, when we were talking about absorb shields, then you come into, you have heal over time abilities, meaning that you throw it out on a target and it heals over time. So that makes reading quite important. What I mean by that is, take for example Ancestor's Echo. Direct heals you cast have a 25% chance to create a shield on your target. If I was to cast Rune of Regeneration here on Sira, it heals, but it does not proc Ancestor's Echo. You see it procs Ancestor Shielding because I have a tactic that makes Rune of Regeneration do that. However, if I was to cast Grimnir's Gift, it has a chance to proc Ancestor's Echo, because Grimnir's Gift is a direct heal, whereas Rune of Regeneration is not. If I was to cast Rune of Serenity, it does not proc either, because that is a heal over time. Rune of Mending, you see it has a heal over time portion and a direct heal, but as far as I know, Rune of Mending can proc Ancestor's Echo. So that makes it a very useful tool. So read on your abilities, know how they function and what they do. So a 15-second heal over time, you have 9-second heal over time, you have 5-second heal over time. That depends. Different classes have different heal over times, but know how they function, know what they are supposed to be doing. And that leads us into HOTS versus direct heals. So in a situation, say you are running a 6-man or you're running an open RVR warband, you can see through a Blessing of Alaya. On a Rune Priest, you can get a 3000 AoE group heal, where you can heal the entire group for 3000. And there are situations where that is incredibly useful and strong. However, when you are casting Rune of Regeneration on all the targets, which is a 1.5 second cast, this heals for a grand total of 2100, and these can crit. Then you have your Rune of Serenity, and you layer heal over time upon heal over time. That is when you have the absolute greatest effect of healing. So if you, as a healer, can get as many heal over time out on a target as possible, and if the other healers are doing the same, that means your healing effectiveness is so much higher. Because if you have the HOTS together with a Blessing of Alaya, for example, if you have all your heal over times together with the group heal, that provides a much higher healing per second output. So only using one is not the most efficient way to heal. And for example, you have Blessing of Alaya, which it can be interrupted. You cannot cast it on the move. You're stuck in the mud when you're casting this. Same thing with the Rune of Restoration, and same thing with the Touch Up the Divine for the Warrior Priest. Any big group heal has a cast time, and it makes you stationary. So that's the biggest drawback, because you cannot kite, you cannot run away while you're casting those. Then you have stuff like Grungni's Gift, which is a instant cast heal. So if Serum here was to be on 50% HP, and I would want to get him up as fast as possible, yes, I would do Grungni's Gift to get him up fast. However, if I had HOTS rolling on him, it would be so much easier, because then instead of just mindlessly spamming Grungni's Gift to panically get him back up to full, I could maybe do 1 or 2, because there's background healing going on. So that would just make the healing him so much easier, because the pressure, because you have helped yourself ahead of time. So in a way, it's sort of preparing for disaster by getting HOTS out, which is the best way, in my opinion, and from what I've experienced so far, the best way to heal. There are times where a Rune of Restoration, for example, or a Blessing of Alaya is absolutely the right thing to do. But that is usually if you have HOTS on the group and you see they're taking more pressure than the other healer can help back up. So a Warrior Priest will be the most efficient group healer. And then you have a Rune Priest, which is a very good, same with the Archmage, very good at healing, spot healing, target healing. So keeping HOTS on as many people as possible and having everyone else in your group do the same is by far the best way to heal. And when it comes to healing, there's another thing that you can do. It is called cleansing. So this here is Rune of Cleansing. It removes a curse or ailment. You have a Warrior Priest has 1, and Archmage has 1. The same with Disciple of Cain, Zealot, and Shaman. They can all cleanse specific things. So there are damage over time abilities and debuffs that the enemy placed on your team and yourself that you can straight up remove. You cannot target remove and choose which one, but there are some that you can remove and some you can't. Warrior Priest and Archmage, same with Disciple of Cain and Shaman, have a tactic where they can group cleanse, meaning they can cleanse one thing from everyone in your group. And cleansing is incredibly useful because it mitigates a lot of damage. So, for example, if you see a target has Word of Pain on them, you know that there will be a Sork going. They will take a lot of damage very soon because there's a Sork that will be targeting them. So you make sure to keep your HOTS rolling on the target, and you maybe get an Absorb Shield out, and then you cleanse. You try to cleanse. You try to remove that Word of Pain or that Chill Wind or whatever debuff they have on them that will make them take that much damage, because you can straight up remove that. So that means your background healing and your Absorb Shield can deal with the rest. So instead of them taking 10,000 damage in a global cooldown, they instead take maybe 3,000 or 4,000 because you have mitigated so much damage by cleansing and having your Absorb Shield up. So that when you see people that are running away and you feel like you're doing so much damage, you have all your damage rotations out and they take little to no damage, that is because things are being cleansed and they are using Absorb Shields along with Heal Over Times. That's just rolling and completely negating all your damage. So as a Warrior Priest or an Archmage, using your group cleanse is very, very strong. Because you can, by using that, you can mitigate so much damage on your entire team. And the same thing, you can cleanse things like, you can cleanse the Shatter ability, which increases your cooldown by 5 seconds. You can cleanse that from your entire team. So it's just a very, very useful and good tool, and it really should not be ignored. Same thing as a healer, you have a Resurrection. It takes 3 seconds. So when you use your morale, your focused mind, that goes down to 1.5 seconds, which is very good. Archmages and Shamans can instant cast, but it's debatable when you should and should not be using it. It's not a discussion for this one. I'm not going to go into it because I don't play either of those classes, so I don't really know. Then you come into the whole priority target. So when you are feeling in a open RVR setting or a a 6-man setting, whatever, you kind of you need to spot heal at times on the target that takes the most damage. And to do that, you can predict what will happen. So for example, if I am running on the outskirts and Serum here is supposed to be the person getting attacked, if I can see by his positioning, if the enemy is near him, I know he is more likely to take a lot of damage. So then I start focus healing on him. That way, when the focus damage comes in, I can be ready and I can have rolling HOTS on him, meaning I can mitigate a lot of the incoming damage. So you need to not only pay attention to your movements, but the movements of your team as well. Use your minimap to see where is the majority of the people, where do I need to be in relation, and is the enemy coming toward me? If not, then maybe I can stand still and do some healing. But also minding where is my team heading. If you see that fucking Slayer just gunning it towards the front line, then you know that, yeah, this guy is going to take a lot of damage in a second. Get your HOTS out. Get your Absorb Shield out. Try to mitigate as much as possible. Try to get your heals on him. But pay attention to your team's movement as well as your own. And, of course, the enemy's movement. That is very, very important. So, as any class, you have a main stat. As a healer, it's generally willpower. Willpower is what controls, it sets how high your healing values is. However, the scaling of willpower to heal ratio is a bit meh, meaning you can heal just fine with a very low amount of willpower. My class, I am running 676 willpower, which is more than enough to heal efficiently. I can heal through most things, especially if I have a second healer with me. So when it comes to itemization as a healer, you generally should not focus on willpower and getting that stat as high as possible. You need a baseline of about 600. 600 to 700 is more than enough. The rest of the stats really should be focused on your defenses, on getting your initiative up, getting your toughness up, and especially getting your wounds up. You want high wounds. And then you have stuff like dodge, disrupt, parry, and you have armor. So these are stats that you can focus on. I'm not going to go into what is the most efficient mitigation stat, because that is a completely different discussion, and I genuinely do not have the numbers for what is the most efficient. What I personally have done is I have gone for wounds and I have gone for toughness to get, a baseline. Same thing with initiative. So, and I do that by mixing and matching sets and talismans. So I got toughness, talismans, and everything. And here I'm running 5-piece Triumphant for the healing crit, and I'm running 3-piece Sentinel. It's not the most efficient build. It's not, this is not good gearing. It's just something that I threw on, and it works fine for healing. But yeah, so when it comes to your gearing, a big portion of it is being defensive. So I have, you can see here, reduced crit chance 17. So that is because I have spec'd into futile strikes, and this is not. Normally, I go higher into futile strikes for open RVR and whatever. This is just I've been doing something else. So right now I'm more into healing, crit healing. But speccing into futile strikes is so incredibly useful as a healer that it's not even funny, because most of the things that will attack you as a healer is normally squig herders or, shadow warriors, sorceress / bright wizards, or a witch elf, or, a marauder, and all of those, and same thing, white lion and witch hunter. Most of those classes usually have a crit booster or some way to get their crit chance up high, so their damage will be mainly done through critically hitting you. So getting futile strikes as a healer is so very, very important, because you mitigate so much of the incoming damage just through doing that. So this is normally how I would spec. So you go 3 into spiritual healing, and then you go futile strikes, and then you put the rest into, initiative and wounds, or, whatever stat you decide. You can go for the dodge, disrupt. You have a lot of options, but focusing on your defenses is very important. So you need to get a baseline of wounds. So at least, absolute minimum, I would say, is around 8,000. But preferably as a healer, you should be 9,000 plus when you have best in slot gear at endgame. So building defensively and getting, for Rune Priest, for example, getting your critical healing bonus up is very, very important, because Blessing of Grungni. If you want to increase your baseline heal value, crit heal is the most important, the most useful way to do that. Same thing with Archmage and Warrior Priest, because the classes have some things that proc off of critical heals. So we were talking earlier about spot healing. If you're in a warband and you want to heal efficiently, it's not enough to just heal your group. There are 24 people in that group, hopefully, and 8 of them can heal. So just healing your own group is, well, first of all, it's kind of selfish. And second of all, your group may not take any damage at the moment. Like, if your group is not taking that much damage, you have all the time in the world to, you know, help out the other group. You may have a group that has weaker healers. They may be were scared, or they may be, you know, just generally worse players. So throwing out your Rune of Regeneration or your Lambent Aura or Healing Hand or whatever your abilities of choosing is on the other groups as well, helping out by healing the DPS or healing the other healers that are taking pressure, is it's so important, because if you don't do that, you're essentially just letting the other groups fend for themselves. So what's sort of the point in you healing in a warband if you're not healing everyone else? Because if you're healing everyone else, the chances are they can heal you when you're getting pressured as well, because there's no pressure on them. So if you want to be selfish, heal every group, because that comes back to help you as well. If in our guild warbands, our healers are healing everyone. Like, you don't just heal your group, you heal everyone. Like, when we engage, if I see a fight is about to happen, I start healing before the fight has even occurred. Like, if there's, I know that in about 5 to 10 seconds, people are gonna start taking damage, I start doing a Rune of Regeneration, I run right away. I get as many hots out as I can, so that when the fighting starts, as many people as possible have baseline healing going on them. They have rolling heal over times, and then I can, you know, just focus on maintenance. I don't need to start focusing on, you know, saving everyone from 0 to 100. It's just maintenance at that point. And if everyone is doing it, it becomes very easy. And then you come into what is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts of any class, be it healer, DPS, or tank. And that is being vocal. If you're in a group with, you know, you're in a warband, for example, and there is 24 other people and there are 8 healers, and you see a person being dead, and you want to resurrect that person, your rune of life or whatever healing, whatever resurrection you have, is 3 seconds. So it means you have to stand and cast for 3 seconds. So if you want to resurrect that person, don't just press the button. Tell everyone else that you are the one that is resurrecting, so that they don't have to waste those, you know, 2.5, 3 seconds. Because having 5 people trying to resurrect the same person is a waste of time. They can be healing others, they can be doing other things, while you are the only one in resurrection. And that is best done by telling everyone what is happening. Same thing, if you're in a small scale, if you're in a 6-man, and you're being attacked by witch elves, and you're being attacked and you need guard, for example, run towards your team and tell them, there is this thing attacking me, this person's attacking me, I'm in trouble, I need help. Because they don't always know. Most people, yeah, sure, they will, you know, a good tank will spot that you're in trouble and you need help, but sometimes they miss things. So letting everyone know what's going on is very important. Same thing, if you're going to be using your stagger, for example, your Rune of Binding, tell your team that you will be staggering this person so that they don't start doing damage on him, because that breaks the stagger, meaning you just wasted a global cooldown and you gave that person a 30-second immunity for no good reason. So being vocal is incredibly important as a healer, as a tank, and as a DPS. So hopefully this has been helpful to some of you healers out there. I will be linking a guide. I will be linking my UI, and if people have any questions, or if I've given, you know, what you think is bad information, then just let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. So thanks for watching. Subscribe.